Right. So we talk on some interesting aspects of karma yoga, because karma yoga in itself is way too vast a subject to speak on. But we just speak on some common understandings about it and common misrepresentations about it. Because after all, our whatever we are doing, the integral yoga is in the end a karma. It is a karma yoga. All life is yoga. So that means the karma is. Now, the yoga of action, karma means action, but it also means to every action there is a consequence. The whole point of yoga is to get out of the action consequence loop. How? By doing more action do you get out of the action consequence loop. That's the simplest definition of karma, by the way. Every action has a consequence. If it is a good action, it will have a good consequence. If it is a bad action, it will have a bad consequence, and it is irrevocable. You see, that is the issue that people don't grasp about Indian culture, in that Indian culture is pretty fierce and tough, that we don't have escape clauses, we don't have escape routes of forgiveness and your sins of, because if something has happened, you will experience it. And the whole issue of mukti or nirvana has always been to come out of karma, has always been to come out of that action consequence loop. So it's very interesting that amongst the yogas, there is Jnana Yoga, which is the intellectual approach, or the wisdom approach. I wouldn't like to call it the intellectual approach, but the wisdom approach to things. There is Bhakti Yoga, which is the devotional approach to things. There is Raja Yoga, which combines all aspects. There is the asana, there is the kriya, there is the devotion, there is the knowledge, and there is the karma yoga. Now, if you are an emotional person, Bhakti Yoga is better for you. If you are an intellectual type of person, Jnana Yoga is better for you. If you are a very body-centric person, or you are a person who needs to get up and do things because your Earth Tattva is dominant in you, then of course Karma Yoga is better for you. And if you are a more integral kind of person, that is the Raja Yoga, where everything, it is not like a devotee or devotional person does not do work, or it does not have brains, or it is not like an intelligent person does not have devotion. These boundaries are artificial. The problem as it sort of exists is that everybody privileges their path. There is no privilege in yoga. Yoga is very clear whatever works. So yoga is about finding what is optimal for you. Because what does yoga mean in the end? Yoga means to join, to yoke, jodna, to join you to something. Whatever joins you to the higher consciousness, whatever joins you to that aspect of consciousness which will free you from karma, that is yoga. Now in India, of course, we get into all these complex misunderstandings. People always keep quoting the Bhagavad Gita. They never read the Bhagavad Gita in context. They never read the Gita, forget context. They bring out one or two of these verses completely hanging fire by itself without any understanding of what was meant, and then it is communicated to everybody. So we have the very famous verse, karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. You basically have the right to work, but not to the fruits thereof. So that's actually a very superficial understanding of. Krishna was the most awesome guy our culture has produced. One day I'll talk on Krishna, because he is also so multifaceted. we'll have to have like about 4-5 different lectures, Krishna in his relationships, Krishna as a politician, Krishna as a spiritual person. We'll have to have multiple sort of approaches to, and Krishna as a nuisance, because everybody talks so much about Krishna and how so wonderful. But if you had a young child running around the neighborhood opening anybody's refrigerator, that child wouldn't be captivating and Nanda Gopal. That child would be getting clouts on the side of the head. And if you have a child that is going around, or a young boy of 12 who's dancing in the middle of the night with all the married women in the neighborhood, yeah, so Krishna is an aspect of possibility and freedom that we still are not ready to get to. So this constant quoting of Krishna, I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. Because most of us are geared to follow Arjuna, who says, no, they are my family members, I can't kill them. That is morality and that is dharma as we understand it. And here is Krishna, who is supposed to be an avatar, and he's saying, no, kill them. So even today, the fact of the matter is, in our heart of hearts, we think Arjuna was right. Actually, we are on the side of Arjuna. What we call morality is actually, but Krishna was not a moral person, he was an ethical person. So there is a difference. Most people don't understand the difference. But so when we quote Krishna selectively, I always find it very funny, that this man was so completely free, he was so completely limitless, he was so completely boundless. And the whole aspect of karma yoga is to see, because your body is your first limitation. You can see that in babies. Sometimes they are crying because they are frustrated, they can't communicate, their bodies, they can't move, they can't, babies get very frustrated because they can't stand, they can't walk, they can't sit. You can see that the frustration is the limitation of the body. Your body is your first limitation, and working with that limitation, we seek the limitless. Now only yoga has guts to do these things. Working with your daily actions, we seek the limitless. So this whole business of karmanyavadika raste, to work you have the right and not to the fruits thereof. It's just basic, simple psychological sense. There is no deep spiritual understanding to it. There is no need to come into that the avatar said so and therefore we must. What he is basically saying is, look, you cannot control outcomes. Life is complex, the world is complex, the universe is complex. There are multiple possibilities, multiple strands of reality operating in any one given time, in any one given moment. You cannot control outcome. You cannot say, if this, therefore that. That is logic. That is not life. It's just a very simple, basic, emotional and psychological truth. You cannot control outcomes. You cannot say, there's a sad episode in America. This young boy was frustrated because he was not getting a girlfriend, and he went around with an automatic rifle shooting people up. And his complaint was, I'm a nice guy and you are not paying attention. So his thing is, since I am a nice guy, therefore, he was trying to control outcomes. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. Life is much, much, much more complex, which is why in the Gita only Krishna himself says, Gahana karmana gati. Deep is the flow of karma. You cannot ever. And in medicine they understand that. There is a very, very famous phrase in medicine, all symptoms are overdetermined. There is no one cause why something goes wrong. There are multiple reasons. If you keep trying to diagnose, you will never come to an end to it. All symptoms are overdetermined, all symptoms are overdetermined. So this overdetermination of cause and effect is what Krishna was saying. What you can do is, you can do the best. To your knowledge, to your ability, you can do the best. And then, if you are a mature person, you cannot sit and whine and complain that it didn't turn out as I wished it to be. Why is the universe not accommodating itself to my desire? That's all he's basically saying. That's all he's saying at a very deep and core and simple. And See, the Mahabharata is an extremely practical and grounded book. It's an extremely psychologically mature book. Even though the people are all immature, their understanding of human behavior is fantastic. I know that doesn't sound normal, but if you look in the Mahabharata, very few people have adult maturity in that. Most of them are easily triggered. They are like 12-year-olds in how easily they flare up. And how, that, so they are not very psychologically mature people, but the overall understanding is here. This is wrong behavior. So something else he says in the Gita, which of course is uh, the less famous quotation on karma, and I think it actually should be the more famous quotation. He says, Yoga karmeshu kaushalya. Yoga is skillful karma. Wherever there is skillful and optimal karma, optimal action, that is yoga. Anytime you do something really skillful, really optimally, kushalta se, kushalta purvak, yoga karmeshu kaushalya. Anytime you do something optimally, anytime you do something with skill, he does not say the phala karmeshu kaushalyam, he says yoga. You can unite yourself to that higher consciousness, you can unite yourself to whatever it is that your notion of God or your notion of transcendence, if you perform your actions kushalta purvak, which means optimally or skillfully. That is very helpful, because we can all do actions with awareness, we can all do actions skillfully, we can increase the level of skill, we can increase the level of ability. Now, whenever I teach you the breaths, I keep saying you cannot do it automatically, you cannot do it through habit, you cannot do it through muscle memory. You have to do it in awareness. Any action done with full awareness, which is why, I mean, this side has been overdone, that even when you're sweeping the floor, if you can do it with awareness, that is yoga. True. Any action done with 100% awareness and no expectation for outcome, that part people forget to say. That expectation for outcome is the dangerous part, because then what we are telling the universe is, I know better than you. Now this is going to sound very strange because I am a tarot guy, and I've written 2 books on the subject in India. Nobody else has ever done that. First book on the subject in India 14 years back actually. And then I created a tarot pack on it, and I never read for myself because as a yogi I understand something very simple, that if you try to foresee something, you freeze yourself, you freeze all your possibilities in that one line of development. The minute you predict, the minute you forecast, the minute you try to augur, that was the word in English, when you try to open up something and you try to see what can happen. How does this augur? Forecast karo. The minute you do that, whatever answer you get, you are now committed. Your karma, your destiny, your life energy is now committed to that one possibility, and there might have been much better possibilities. So which is why in yoga, unless the situation is dire emergency, the yogi will never look into the future. I myself, in the days when I was not firm about this, people would discover that this guy has a pretty good idea what is going to happen, and then what happens, they start harassing you, they start harassing you, they start harassing you. And I had a friend much younger than me, she had a boyfriend who was quite a talented cricketer, and she wanted that he becomes an India player, naturally, because then life is set. So I made the mistake of looking at it and I said, no, there is no chance here. And of course people don't want to hear that, people only want to hear the positive things. Like, see, even if I do something, even if I put some Shakti behind it and I force it and by some miracle he gets selected, it won't endure because it is not a natural possibility. It has to be in alignment with your basic karma, your basic nature. It is not his possibility, and it is, if you look at it that way, pretty absurd, is it not? How many people at any one given time can be members of the Indian cricket team? About 20 people. If we take the T20 people and the Test cricket people and the one day people, about 20 people. You want that your person has that destiny or has that skill, and it's not that level of talented, and he had made some blunders. His father also had got little agitated and they went and joined that rebel cricket league, and then after that the establishment would never give him a chance. So that really taught me, the very, very hard way it taught me, don't go looking into the future, because people don't like it. And once I had articulated it, that was it. He was frozen into it. Today he's doing a job. He's given up the dreams of, and this was the tragedy, because from the time he was a small boy, he was doing the 7-8 hours of practice, going to the coaches. The entire family was invested in the fact that one day he will become an India player and all this will pay off. But is that a feasible and a reasonable dream to have? You cannot build your entire future on something that is so dicey and something that is so. So that was not yoga karmaneshu kaushalyam, not at all. That was not an optimal or a skillful use of karma. It was a Phaleshu kadachana type. No, it was a complete desirable outcome, and now you've set up your desirable outcome and you're gearing all your actions for that one and only one outcome. And me getting harassed, no, do something. I'm like, yes, I can do. I'm not pretending I can't do, but it won't work. This to me was a perfect example that instead of looking at doing the best action that you can and then seeing what life provides you with, you already decided your outcome. Now people call that goal, people call that target, people call that desire, whatever it is. But if it was something feasible, this is so completely, it's rare. At any one given time, how many people are in the Indian cricket team? And to expect that I will be one of them is placing a pretty high value on yourself. Do you have the evidence for it? Do you have the backing for it? Do you have the demonstrated skill level for that? Or do you have the track record for that? You're just one talented person, one talented possible potential person among so many others. And it completely zapped me, because I realized that all this business of following your bliss and following your desire and your heart, you can be so mistaken. I said, you came to me for advice, I am giving you the best advice I can, but you didn't come to me for advice, you came to me for validation. You came to me for saying ki haan ho jayega, and I'm not exploiting you by telling you that yes, I'll do it, and I could have just scammed some money off you. But it was a complete mix-up. It was a complete mix-up of effort and desired outcome, because they were not focusing on the effort, they were focusing on the desired outcome, and it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. Now, I'm not saying not to have goals. I'm not saying, but if you have such a rare goal, how many people in any given time achieve that goal? Everybody talks about Shah Rukh Khan coming to Bombay, sleeping on the park bench, bumming cigarettes of his friend. What about the hundreds of thousands who crash and burn, who fail? So it kind of bewildered me that people think that they are doing karma, they are doing karma yoga, or they are doing optimal action, when actually all that they are doing is focused on result, focused on, it's not even result, it's desirable outcome, and it is not even a normal desirable outcome, it's an abnormal, it's an exceptional desirable outcome, it's a rare desirable outcome. And it really, it hurt me because they were people I cared about. But I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie because I care about people. If it's not there, it's not there. See, the thing is, there is another aspect of action which all yogis know, but they don't tell people because, then people get disheartened. And the fact is, action is very destructive to consciousness, because the minute we act in some way, we feel invested in that action, and then we are invested in the desirable outcome to that action. I'm not saying anything surprising here. Yes, we all know it. Which is why when they would train people in yoga, the first thing they would say is renounce. Give up your possessions, give up the things that you have, even give up your name. Yeah, they'd give you a new name because you were so invested in your name. You were so invested in your name and what it meant and the history that came with it and the emotional experiences that came with it. Then we can do something. Then we can free you. That is the reason why they would insist on the sannyasa. That is the reason they would insist on vairagya. Because the basic human psychology of getting invested, because we have done, therefore we get invested in it. In the stock market, people know that. People invest in some stock, it goes up a little bit, they get some benefits, they get some rewards, it crashes down, no, let me hold on. Throwing good money after bad. Yes, it's called the commitment bias. Since in psychology it's called the commitment bias. Since I am already committed to it, now I'll see it through. And it's very easy to activate that in somebody. It's very easy to activate that foolishness in somebody. And then the whole thing crashes and burns. And somebody like Nicholas Nassim Taleb, he makes money, the rest of them lose money. His entire investment strategy is waiting for the market to crash, because that day he becomes a multi-millionaire. So he understands. Yoga karmaneshu kushalam, and he understands. Don't invest in outcome. He's about the only man who really understands it, and I'm like, how did this Lebanese fellow understand this? And the Hindus still don't, He is actually a karma yogi that way, So, on the other hand, even Swami Vivekananda said, do you think it's easy to be a karma yogi? We have only one example, and that was Janaka, father of Sita. Do you really think it's that easy? Because it's a question of unrelenting awareness. It's a question of doing everything with your entire mind, your entire body, your entire emotion, just throwing yourself into it in a berserk manner, and then if it doesn't work out, just brushing yourself off and walking ahead. How many people can do that? I get a lot of feedback. Don't say this, because I laugh at people and I tell them, do you think that just because you've been sincere in doing something, it can not all come to one big fat goose egg in the end? It can come to naught. You can waste your entire life following something. You can waste entire lifetimes, and they keep saying don't say that. And I'm like, it's a truth. People need to know it. You can follow something mistaken and you can really, really mess up. Lifetime spent wandering and doing nonsense. And because nobody's feelings should be hurt, we keep quiet about all that. I'm like, truth is more important than feelings. So it's not an emotional thing, it's not a mental thing, it's not a bodily thing. Karma yoga, when we say, it is an ability to be completely present and aware and simultaneously completely detached. Now it sounds a little schizophrenic, it's not. It only means your only concern is, am I doing the best I can at this current possible moment? Am I bringing my full game to the table at this second? Forget what I did 5 minutes back, forget what I'm going to do tomorrow. At this moment, am I functioning optimally? If you can answer that yes, and honestly yes, then you are in Karma Yoga. And am I not going to be disheartened because my outcome, my desired outcome, did not manifest? All it is saying is that develop your skills. Of course, you need to have your skills, you need to have your education, all the basic things are taken for granted. What it is telling you is that outcomes cannot be controlled. And in meditation, in Kriya and Pranayama, it is the first thing I learned. One of the first lessons I learned is that if you keep doing this, pushing for a goal, you are only multiplying the boulders in your path. The day I say, hang it, I'm just going to sit in meditation, I don't care whether I get anywhere, that day you have the breakthrough. In life also, very often we have seen that situation, yes? Where our overcommitment to a situation, where the intensity of our desire towards something becomes the block, becomes the boulder. And the minute we say, let it be. So this is not even a tricky game. People think, but it must be so difficult because you got to keep switching between two extremes. The problem is you think there are extremes. There are no extremes. There is only awareness. What I am doing at this moment, I will do to the best of my sincerity and my integrity. Because can we control outcomes? No, we go on an assumption that things will continue as they are, but our lives are very fragile things. Wink out like that. Taleb had a mentor who asked him, what will happen if your investment firm, the building your investment firm is, a plane crashes into it? Do you have any backup for that? What kind of an absurd scenario is this? Now we know that's not an absurd scenario, that's well within the realms of possibility. And he asked him like almost 2 decades before what happened on 9/11. So he is a real karma yogi. Taleb is a 100%. I mean, his Black Swan and that. What's his latest book? Anti-Fragile, yes? Yeah. Anti-Fragile, yeah. He's a karma yogi. He understands. He understands the whole notion of karma yoga perfectly. Perfectly. I've never seen anybody who has such actual hands-on experience of karma yoga like Taleb. He gets it. I mean, most of the people who talk on karma yoga, unfortunately, are not karma yogis. They are renunciate people. They are swamis. They are people sitting somewhere, And they are people who never had to lift a finger anymore because everything is done for them, So they are not people with what Taleb keeps calling skin in the game. Skin in the game. Do you have your skin in the game? He has skin in the game. So when I got this, that this whole issue of karma yoga is not complex, this whole issue of karma yoga is not, because that stickiness, you see the chitta, the mind stuff, the mental substance, it is deeper than the mind. Every time we do something, every time we go somewhere, our mind leaves a residue there, it sticks. And that stickiness impacts us, it impacts our life, it impacts our our emotions, it impacts our, which is why, in early days you are advised not to go to dirty places, you are advised not to go to, because they do bring you down. The minute I say garbage dump, we all have an instinctive revulsion, yes, because it's an obnoxious sight, it's an obnoxious smell. Everything about it repulses us. That is because our chitta can feel that disgust. That aspect of our consciousness called the chitta, the mental stuff, the consciousness stuff, it sticks over there and you can feel that drags me down. And actions are a great way of getting your chitta stuck into things. It is human nature, it is, basic human nature. I have invested so much time and effort in this and now it is not paying me back. Anybody will feel bad. But little bit of thought should convince you that hardly any outcome is in your hand. So many factors are at play simultaneously at any one given time, and I think that is the reason why cricket is so popular in India, because no matter how well you're doing, one ball and that's it, the whole story is out. That the factor that anything absurd and unique and something unexpected can suddenly come breaking through your defenses very literally and bring everything crashing down. So it's, Ashish Nandi was correct when he said that cricket is an Indian game accidentally discovered by the British. Accidentally invented by the British. It is an Indian game. The mindset is very Indian. Quite apart from the mythological aspects of it, but in that sense of everything that is being built up with so much of effort, all your investment, all your effort, everything can be cancelled with that one instance. It does not matter. That one instance and everything is wiped out, which is exactly what life is. So yoga is, karma yoga in that sense is psychological maturity. It is just about doing. It is just about, because karmaneshu kaushalyam, he has not said to be incompetent. Kushalta purva. When we say somebody is kushal, we means the expert. So the effort to gain expertise, the effort to come to that level of expertise is taken for granted. Karmaneshu kaushalya, when you come, when you can do your action, when you can do every action at a level of optimal or at a level of expertise, you are in yoga. That is helpful, because if all life is yoga, that means everything we do is yoga. Yoga is not what we do when we are doing asanas, when we are doing kriya. That's how people look at it. When we are doing our asana, when we are doing our kriya, when we go to the temple, when we go to do the bhajan kirtan, that is when we are doing yoga. No. Yoga is all those other times, Now, if you try to control this just with your mind, I must be equanimous at all times. The other overused word from the Gita, sthita pragya. At all times, you will only get into trouble. It doesn't work that way. It has to be mind, it has to be body, it has to be emotion. So you have to be in the habit of doing sadhana for many years before you can come to that state where you can just throw yourself into it full tilt. Like an insane person, it doesn't work and you can just get up and say fine. Gurdjieff, I keep talking about Gurdjieff recently he had a lot of people would come to him, and he was one of those complete bonkers crazy wisdom kind of teachers. So this was one of his oldest tricks. And they were all elite people, because he would not accept anybody who was not successful in life. So Europeans at that level, they've never done any manual labor. They'd come in there and he'd give them a spade. Like, we need a new vegetable garden, so behind the kitchen dig up whole day in the sun, these people are digging it up. And at 7 o'clock he'd say, I've changed my mind, fill it back up in. And then he'd observe the reaction. Because if they had come with that, this will make him pleased, this will get us brownie points, this will make us more important in his life, or you have a little bit deeper kind of wisdom and you'd be like, but what about the vegetables? He was just checking your basic nature. Can you do something with full intensity? And if it doesn't work out, can you just go on to the next thing? Because only those people will grow. Only those people will transform. Whereas if you sit over there and you whine and you complain and you get into that, and that, oh dear, all this work went. So that's why I was very happy when that talk of mine kind of, it disappeared. I was like, okay. Because, normally when something like that happens, I launch into a vocabulary demonstration for about 5 minutes. That's my way of letting off steam. And if you think that I speak well like this, you should hear me when I'm being abusive. And I had absolutely zero reaction to it. All I said was, I told all of them, all right, I'll go home and I'll do a small version because the talk should not be lost. But 1 hour I was on fire and it just evaporated basically on me, and it did not matter. I was like, okay. It was a very, very important day for me because I realized that something has shifted. Something has shifted. Which is not to say, by the way, that you do not feel disappointment. I am not saying that at all. I am not saying that you should not feel disappointment and you should not feel regret and you should not feel unhappiness. That is cruelty. To tell people that you should not feel all basic, normal and healthy human emotions is ultimate cruelty, and worse than cruelty, it is stupidity. There is no problem with disappointment and unhappiness and sadness and sorrow and loss and all those things, but they should not be allowed to define you, and they should not be allowed to cripple you. They should not be allowed to paralyze you. Most people think if I'm a karma yogi, I should not have any complaints. I should always be smiling. Who said? The thing is, can you just move on? And the question is not, it is karma yoga, it is not behavior yoga. They are not checking, they are checking your actions, they are not checking your words. You abuse if you want to, or you say, oh damn, or whatever, and then move on to the next one. Now these mistaken focuses, on you should not express disappointment, you should not express sorrow, you should not express unhappiness or resentment. If you are a spiritual person, you should not have resentment. I'm like, you haven't read the biographies of spiritual people. Anywhere in the world, a spiritual person, the kind of bad temper that they have, it doesn't matter which period of human history, the bad temper that they have is unique. But they know, express it, move on. They don't hang on to that. They don't live in that. They don't live in that outburst. Express it and move on. And the Zen, the Taoist people, the Chinese yogis, they understood this very well. Whatever is the emotion at the moment, experience it and then move on. They understood it very well. But at the moment, we unfortunately have made this whole karma yoga into one control mechanism. You should do your duty. Who said? Who decides what your duty is? It has become a familial control mechanism. It has become a social control mechanism. No, don't abandon this. Do your duty. When you are old, you can do yoga. No, when you are old, you can't do yoga. You can play act at it. You can do yoga when you are young and healthy. And again, my great hero Swami Vivekananda was once told, is it not our duty? And he exploded like a volcano. He just said the duty is the midday sun of misery scorching all that is good in the human soul. And he was a man who spent his whole life telling Indians, wake up and do some work instead of sitting and meditating. But he just did not like that notion of duty, because he understands duty is a control mechanism. It is a way to keep people limited, and yoga does not tolerate limitations. So he just flat out, can you imagine saying that duty is the midday sun of misery, scorching all that is noble in the human soul? He would not allow that. He would not allow that idea that we can use this notion of an aspect of yoga, karma yoga, the yoga by action, and then we can use that to control people. He just wouldn't allow it. He exploded. So is it difficult? No, not at all. Or rather, is it simple? It is actually very simple. Is it difficult? It is difficult in the early stages. Later on, it becomes second nature. Most valuable things are simple, but they are terribly, horribly difficult in the early stages. It's like all the things we teach children, don't lie. Now, yes, of course, a very good moral and ethical prescription. Is it feasible? Can you say a blanket thing like don't lie? Is that a valid thing under all circumstances? Exactly. The minute you have said that, you have fallen from yoga. Because yoga, first of all, don't bullshit yourself. Don't lie. Don't lie to yourself. So there are these aspects of adult consciousness, which is why I keep saying, yoga is for grown-ups. Yoga is for grown-ups, not for deluded people, not for people living in dream world. Yoga is for people who are absolutely grounded. So the more I come to karma yoga and the more I understand, it's just a simple thing. Now, to make that your entire focus of your sadhana is dangerous, which is why it is much better to have meditation and kriya and those kind of things. To try and just keep this constant awareness going at all time as your sadhana, most people cannot pull it off. Yes, karma yoga can be a very useful support to the other things you're doing, but it's better to have some kind of formal kriya meditation. To try and make just the work that you're doing, because of the tendency of the mind to stick, the stickiness quality of the chitta. You never know when you stop being protected and you just get caught in some foolish loop of action consequence. But if you do your kriya and your meditation, every day you're cleansing, every day you're breaking. The more you do your kriya meditation, every day you break all those energy connections you made with the environment. Every day you break. Every day you break. So it's better to keep this attitude, but at a psychological level or at a functional level, this is an awesome thing. It's a tremendous thing that our culture developed, and unfortunately, it's one of the most neglected parts of our culture. But what can be done? What can be done? And even in many organizations, you will see they are constantly doing one project, the next project, one project, the next project. Because the goal is not whatever new building or whatever new hall or whatever new mandir. The goal is keep people working. The sadhana there is that the action, just doing the action at full intensity without any thought for the ultimate or desired outcome is what will grow the person, is what will enlarge the person, is what will keep the person going. So as soon as you come to a certain, I am not even saying don't celebrate your successes. Of course you should celebrate your successes. But if you come to a state where you say, that's it, I am done, I am not doing any more, maybe that's fine for you, but in most cases don't. Take up something else. So it's very easy to follow actually in that sense, But many people think that it's just exploitation of people or it's just keeping people busy. Yes, that criticism is valid to some extent, but usually that is not the reason why they do that. In the spiritual community is why they are always having an ongoing project is these reasons. Just get people engaged, just get people doing karma, doing karma, doing karma, that grows you. So we all know when we are doing, when we are performing, when we are actually doing something and it's flowing smoothly, we actually go out of ourselves, yes? There is that feeling of I am not here anymore, my limited personality is not here, and I am in touch. So that is what they are trying to do. And anytime you do something skillfully, you actually grow, your limitation goes. And the whole point of karma yoga is to provide you that limitation, not in a context where you're sitting and pretending to be holy. When you're doing normal things, that limitation goes. That sense of infinity should infuse you every moment. Not only in the special time that you're meditating, not only when you go to a sacred place like Chidambaram, but that sense of infinity should be with you all the time. And that is all that karma yoga is doing. Every action should connect you to that infinite or to that limitless. Every thought should. But as long as you are hooked to desirable outcome, as long as you are hooked to the phala, it cannot happen. Because what you think is the phala may not be the phala that the universe wants to give you. All of us have said, at that time I thought it was bad, but now I realize it was actually quite a blessing in disguise. Yes? All of us have had that experience at least once in life, where something that we thought was really bad in the end turned out to be, thank God, my whole life changed because of that. Now, so the universe's phala is not your phala, because your phala is coming with your limited vasana samskara, your limited buddhi, your limited intelligence, your limited desires. The universe is much wiser than you. So in that sense, that is why they said ma phaleshu kadachana, not because you should not have goals, not because you should not have dreams, not because you should not have desires. That is why they said ma phaleshu kadachana. Okay? Sarvam Shivam.